how those people get. I'm like, we're live now.
All right. Anybody early? Thank you. But watching the replay. Oh, actually, I'm going to end up editing this part out, so it's fine.
Okay.
For the actual YouTube and Facebook. But
okay, I'm putting the links in the podcast group.
I should put some socks on. It's cold in this house.
It froze, said Justyn.
I need to turn off those alerts, I guess.
The what?
Turn off the alerts.
Oh, okay.
I got to do that though. I just logged out of it. I'm not to turn it off. I don't know, Justyn. You might have to come back in.
Okay, let me see. Let me tell him.
Yeah, tell him to rejoin. Let's see if I can. Oh, you can mute it.
Do you want to go, since I'm on probation with Facebook, do you want to go in there and do a Facebook Live telling people to go over here?
Sure. If it lets me. Let me. Did you post the link?
I did.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Let me get the link. Copy what you posted.
Don't do it.
Somebody joined us.
Who's there? How can you tell? I can't tell who's there.
This is Ebony. Try the chat thing on the side.
Okay.
I'm not sure. All right. Hey guys. Just so you know, we are doing a Google Hangouts Air thing because in Houston it is freezing and frozen outside. We had snow yesterday. And so because of that, we cannot do a Facebook Live because we're at home and we have a guest. So join us by clicking the link that is in the status of this video, or if you scroll down a little bit, Elisa posted another status. And we're going to be on Google Hangouts. We're going to try to figure out how to get you guys talking to us so we can get your feedback on the episode. And if nothing else, we'll make sure we have this episode posted on Facebook today, or at least by Friday at the latest. But it'll be on YouTube for you to check out. It'll be a link there for you to watch us and see what we're talking about. So join us. Thanks for joining. And we will. Justyn's back.
Hey, you know what? You should leave that there too. You should leave
this up?
Yeah.
It says go live with Elisa. I guess I won't do that. Okay, let's see. So I'm just gonna hold it like this the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll do it. We'll probably delete it later, guys. So
yeah, but that way when they get here and they see it, they'll know if you go over there, it'll look better.
Okay. All right. So this is our first time doing this. So clearly we are not experts at Google Hangouts. We just got the hang of Facebook Live. And we had to move to Google Hangouts. But I was hoping we'll be able to chat. If you're in and you're watching, is there a chat? Can you try to chat?
There is a little chat deal. I see it.
I see the chat thing, but I just see us.
Let me test it. Oh, you just see, well, you're like, I see you.
I want to see if anybody else can do it. The joys of
technology,
starting a new venture.
Yay! I'm gonna do Instagram live.
Oh, we're just gonna do all the lives today.
Yes, live.
But thanks for joining me. I do see there are people on here, so we appreciate y'all joining us. We're gonna go ahead and get started in a second. I guess we won't be able to chat with y'all, which sucks. I really wanted to talk to y'all.
You can see them on the Google Hangouts.
I can see how many viewers we have.
Oh, okay.
And so we have 3 right now. We had like 4 a few seconds ago.
Well, they can send us if they do. Well, no. See, I'm all over the place. Tell them to text you, Ebony. Just put your number out there. I was gonna say maybe they could post them like on Facebook Live simultaneously, but they probably don't have 3 different devices that they're streaming us.
And no, it's cool. Actually, I'm going to look at it really quickly. I'm probably not going to hold this whole time, just so y'all know. So.
Oh,
yeah, because I don't have a stand for my tablet. I have a stand for my phone. I don't have a stand for my tablet. But all right, I guess we can get. We can get started. So since we're at home, you might hear some background noise. Since we're on our computers, there might be some, different noises. So I'll try my best to edit all that out, but, hopefully y'all forgive us for this time. All of that. Justyn, say something.
Hello out there.
Okay, I just want to make sure the screen had you. That's all.
Okay.
All right. So let's get started.
I'm trying to still get comfortable here. Okay.
Can you hear that dog?
That's a dog? I noticed it after you said that.
Yeah, after you said it, then I noticed it.
This is gonna irk me. That'll be cool. All right. So there's no need to do the 5 seconds of silence because it's gonna be noise throughout the whole thing. So we shall just get started. All right, so before we start, I'm not holding this, I'm sorry. Make sure y'all join. Go to the link in the description of this video. Head over to YouTube. We're doing our session over there, Between Sessions Podcast. Check us out. Hey. Right. Oh my God.
The podcaster guru is like being offset.
Right.
I just hate background noise, but it's cool. All right. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome back to Between Sessions Podcast. Elisa, that's your cue.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was still inviting people. Okay. Between Sessions, 2 brown chicks changing the face of therapy. Both sides of the couch.
On both sides of the couch.
Yes.
Yeah, so today we are, as you can tell, we are on YouTube instead of Facebook Live because in Houston, we have decided to have snow for the 2nd time this season. And I know Elisa and Justyn are from up north, and so y'all are like, why?
Yes,
why? Far enough, obviously. I gotta pack up.
This is not okay.
I don't know what's going on in the world, but yeah, Houston is not supposed to have snow, especially twice in one season. And so, of course, because we're in Houston, we are shut down. So that means no driving, no going to the office, no. A lot of people have been off the last couple of days. So because of that, we are doing at home between sessions. So first time for everything. We'll see.
Yes.
So today we have Justyn Smith.
Justyn
Smith training. Hey. Oh, wait, before we do that, because me and Elisa keep forgetting, I'm Ebony Harris, relationship therapist. in Houston, Texas, host of Room for Relations, Sex and Relationship podcast, co-founder of Melanin and Mental Health, and co-host of Between Sessions. Go, Elisa.
And I ditto all of that, but I'm Elisa Bokeen. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, sexuality expert in private practice, and also the co-founder of Melanin and Mental Health and co-host of Between Sessions. I'm one of the two brown chicks trying to change the face of therapy.
And Melanin and Mental Health is Elisa. I always let her describe.
Oh, I was like, no, you're Melanin and Mental Health too. Melanin and Mental Health. So we are an organization that is committed to raising mental health awareness in Black and Latinx communities. We do this with our website, our social media platforms, local events. We are just out there spreading the word that therapy and mental health is for us too.
Sorry, I tried to go watch the video, and apparently my sound was on. Okay. Oh, so there is. Oh, there's a live chat, but you have to have a channel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so today we have Justyn Smith, one of our two brand ambassadors for Melanin and Mental Health, but he is here in a different capacity. He is going to talk with us about therapy in the LGBTQI community. So, Justyn, can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yes, like she said, I'm Justyn Smith. I am a licensed professional counselor. Woo woo. I know, fully licensed, Lord.
Long road to get there.
So I'm an LPC here in Houston, Texas. I work in private practice where I specialize in serving the LGBTQI community. I'm currently at Amy Wine Counseling Center, which is my practice currently right now. And then I also started Justyn Smith Training as an avenue of helping to provide continuing education on the LGBT population for mental health professionals. And then also getting connected with like different organizations like Melanin Mental Health to spread mental health awareness in the community.
Awesome.
Yes.
So in our attempt to continue on the theme of why don't blank go to therapy, we thought Justyn would be the perfect fit to talk about why the LGBTQI. Wait, so Justyn, you just say LGBT. Can we just say that, or do you have to add the QI?
LGBTQ, LGBT. I think everyone says as many letters or as few letters. I think the general consensus is LGBT kind of gets the job done.
Okay.
So it kind of goes from there.
Okay. Because I know I've heard, just even through doing my other podcasts, we talked about it, and it's like LGBTQIA, and so.
I know some people say queer, just kind of encompass everybody, just kind of the whole spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're here to talk about that community and to discuss the struggles that they may have when looking for a therapist, especially brown people in that community, and how mental health, the lack of resources and things like that may affect those communities. Yeah. So before we get started, I don't know, Elisa, do we have anything else that we needed to kind of talk about before we get into the topic?
As far as what we're doing with Melanin and Mental Health, or do we want to wait until the end? Do we want to?
No, you can talk about it now and then.
So what we've got coming up this month. So we're going to be in Dallas. Yes, we are on the road to meet all of those dope therapists in Dallas. We want to find out what Dallas is doing to change the face of mental health. So we're still securing a location for one of our pop-up happy hours, but we'll be announcing that soon. So Dallas, if you're out there, it's the 26th, correct? That we're going to be up there Friday, the 26th, 6 to 9 p.m. We'll let you know where we're going to be.
Yeah.
But come out and say hi if you're a dope therapist, or if you just think therapy is dope, and or both.
We
want to meet you.
Yep. And check out the website. Of course, this is where we host our podcast, as well as other information just surrounding mental health and brown communities. That's also where our directory is. And if you're having any issues with the directory as far as signing up or finding a therapist, send us an email at info@melaninmentalhealth.com, and we'll try to make sure to help you find somebody that can help you along your journey. Okay.
That's also where you can find, we get questions all the time. Where did you get this shirt? So you got the dope therapist, and the therapy is dope, And long sleeve because it's cold outside. And then melanin and mental health. And your hat? You're wearing your hat?
Yes, we have our hats, we have mugs, everything. Yes. So support. This is how we need to get everything into the community to make it less of a stigma, to make it more normalized. When people see you wearing shirts and hats and things like that, they're gonna ask, like, wait, what does that mean? Where did you get that from? It's always, anytime we walk around in this get garb in our gear, people are always like, wait, especially the self-care is sexy. People love that shirt for some reason. So
you might get questioned depending on what side of town you are with a dope therapist.
That's true. That's true. I have to say,
wait, what?
Dope therapist?
Yes.
We are dope therapists.
We digress. We always do this.
Some of us are dope therapists as far as helping people with substance abuse. So there you go. It works both ways.
It works either way.
It works. Okay, so we are going to get into our topic. We're going to start. This is Justyn. I know you've seen the show, but we're going to just say it for everybody else. More of a conversation. Yes, we have questions. Yes, we have things we want to ask. But we're just trying to have a conversation to normalize these topics and to normalize the way that we talk about mental health. And so we're going to start with the bigger question and kind of pare it down. But we're going to ask you, Justyn, what is you feel like the biggest struggle for the LGBT community in finding mental health or getting help as far as mental health?
Well, I would say it's kind of like everything that you both have already talked about in previous sessions. I know you mentioned a lot about just pray it away or go talk to the pastor. So the church is so important to our community. But so then to add that additional identity of a queer identity that you are gay, it's kind of like, okay, you're depressed. You should go talk to the pastor. Mm-hmm. Oh, you gay and depressed? Oh, you really want to talk to the pastor now?
Right.
So I think it's kind of like everything all of you have talked about plus more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taking that step further, but of adding more of a struggle.
Justyn, can you explain to people, because I know sometimes people may still not understand when people use the term queer, because there was a time where it wasn't used in this way to embrace. Can you explain to people a little bit about the term?
So queer has a negative connotation in the past and kind of being degrading and being a negative term. But then kind of more in the present time, it kind of all encompasses kind of everybody, because as you know, as research continues, as more work is done, and we have more identities being recognized and acknowledged, we keep adding more and more. And so I know I've even read in research, like in academia, using the term queer just to kind of encompass it all and not being a negative term. But that takes also getting the word out, because you may have a professor who is older, who, that was their time of 20, 30 years ago, where that was a negative term. And so then having kind of educate them a little bit about, okay, times have changed, the word is kind of different now and used in a different sense. So kind of just keeping the word, keep spreading that word. That's kind of what we do here, is spreading that awareness of things are changing and changing the conversation.
So how do you think there's because I know you said we already kind of talked about some of the struggles that you may have, but what is the difference, I guess, as far as like brown people trying to find therapists and then brown queer people trying to find therapists? Like, how does that struggle differ?
So I think it is, because I actually did some polling yesterday on Facebook of like what people have experienced. And a lot of times people will say that maybe the counselor is competent with their culture, but they're not competent with their identity, queer identity. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of adding that extra level of struggle to finding a therapist who is competent in both and that you feel is safe to talk about that topic with it. So like I said, it's kind of like the struggle already as people of color, plus the identity of being a queer identity, and trying to find a therapist who is affirming, but also competent with both of the intersection of both your identities.
Right. And I'm always thinking about in, brown communities is the belief that we struggle even more with those communities and acceptance of those communities. And while I know it to be true within the brown community, I'm curious if it's more true than in non-brown communities. Because I feel like in a lot of communities, it's a struggle. Like, you know, white communities, brown communities, whatever the case may be, people struggle with, you're having those problems. I mean, you're having issues as far as being a brown person. And then on top of that, I know a lot of times it's just like, oh, you're going to have more struggle.
Right.
And I wonder if it does look, are we harder on queer communities as brown people, or is it just feels differently because we're scared, because of course there's that extra on top of being brown.
Marginalized within a marginalized community.
Right.
Yeah. So are you asking, like, is it?
That's not really a question. I was just saying.
Okay.
It was because I always think about that, because we hear all the time how, like, oh, if you're gay and you're black, then it's a bigger issue and it's a problem. And, black people don't accept gay people, but I feel like that's in all communities. Every community struggles. There are people that struggle within that community. There are people that accept it and there are people that don't. And probably because we are the minority, it looks more prevalent than it may look as far as in a white community where they're obviously the majority. And so that means that more people accept it because they have more people overall, And so I'm always curious if, and that's, like I said, it's not really a question. It's just kind of a statement of like thought. It's just what I've thought about. Are we really harder on queer communities than other people? I mean, and maybe we are. I've only been raised around brown people, so I don't really know how it looks in other communities.
What they doing in that community?
Well, I think there is something, though, to be said in that, for example, if you are, if you're a trans person, for example, you have a greater chance of being a victim of a violent crime.
Right.
For being, black or brown, they're at this higher risk of being the victims of some sort of violence. Yes.
Right. And that's true. Obviously, we a big thing with the Black Lives Matter is talking about trans women that were being killed at an extremely high rate. That wasn't necessarily being addressed. So
right.
It's true. That is true. So
well, I think I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, I think it really kind of goes back to whose lives matter and what value is placed on whose lives. And I think the more and more you are marginalized, you're further and further away from that, quote unquote, ideal, life. Right. You are this person that looks this way and has these beliefs and practices this faith. The further and further and further you get away from that, the more and more you're going to be coming up against these challenges of just having basic rights and, people treating you with respect.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that it's kind of that adding on top of.
Yeah.
It makes it harder and harder, which is unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way. So when it comes to mental health, how much does acceptance, I guess, play a role? Because again, when we're talking about finding therapists that are competent, and like you said, you can find a therapist that's culturally like, okay, you get me in that aspect. But then when I start talking about sexuality, lifestyle, things like that, then there's a problem, or it's clear. So how should people vet, I guess, to find out about that?
I would say that going into it knowing that maybe the first counselor you won't be the perfect match. I know that you both talked about how, as people of color, we already are like questioning therapy and counseling and going to see someone. And so when we go to see someone, we kind of have really high expectations that we're going to have this magical, like, bond connection.
Right.
And I think that can be a little unrealistic because sometimes, you just don't have a connection. I mean, two counselors can have the same exact training, the same exact education, but it's all about the person and what they bring into that room. So when you're going in there, I think knowing, okay, you may feel comfortable talking about your one identity, but maybe not the other identity. And so I think kind of being aware of, okay, it may take a couple people for me to feel that connection. Just kind of being aware of that.
Right. And that going into it, I think, like we said before, being able to ask the right questions, even maybe before you even go in. You don't want to go into therapy and get more trauma or be damaged.
Right.
Based on somebody that you're supposed to trust. So asking some of those questions that may be uncomfortable. Like I've had clients that when I do my intake session, they'll say, we're a queer couple. Are you okay with that? You know, like very direct. Yeah. And while some therapists may say yes or maybe not so much, you know, may not, at least you've already put it out there so they know what to expect. And hopefully they need to do as far as like, let me get resources, let me learn more so that I can serve these people in the way that I should.
You know, you know, as a therapist who specializes in sexuality, you know, I think that there's something to be said for that being the additional layer also, is that some therapists are limited in how much they educate themselves on issues around sexuality and how that plays a role within our mental health. So I think that being the other, you know, thing to consider. And I love what you said, Justyn, was just kind of being able to recognize what the connection feels like when you're with that person. And then Ebony, like you're saying, is just the questions that you ask, you know, being able to ask that. And I think as therapists, you know, because I know we have therapists that listen also, is what are we doing to let our communities know that, yes, we are an ally. Yes, we are LGBTQI friendly. You know, yes, we do have the education and the training to be able to work competently. I think that's the other aspect of it also, is educating ourselves, you know, to what are some of the unique challenges to our LGBTQI brothers and sisters.
Right.
Right. About that, I think, or as far as therapists and then the community, I think as therapists doing those little things, like on your website, if you have representation of the queer community, you know, will someone from that community see themselves on your website? I'll never forget, Elisa, like when I first met you all, I went to your website and I was like, oh, she down. Okay. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important, even if it's just one picture. I think, you know, we might have 10 pictures. If it's one or two, that we're like, okay, that person might see themselves in that image on your website. That kind of gives them the green light. Because as a gay Black man myself, I think I'm always hyper aware of when I see things around me that are affirming. Even if it's on the flag, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, it doesn't have to be this ginormous rainbow flag. That'd be nice, but it doesn't have to be that huge thing in your office. It could be Outsmart magazine, Houston's LGBT magazine, that you have in your waiting room that they may notice to say, oh, okay, this is time to just be aware of something that I would align with. Right. Little steps can make a huge impact of that person feeling welcome and safe in your environment.
Justyn, I have a quick question for you, or at least hoping maybe you could speak a little bit to it, because part of the feedback that I've heard sometimes, and part of the frustration that I've heard be voiced, is when the client feels that they need to educate the therapist on some of what they might be dealing with. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to that, about it being one of the barriers.
I think that happens a lot. I think through my PhD program, I was able to be involved with like practicum and seeing like the early on stages of counselors, and seeing how sometimes they just didn't know anything at all. And so I think it kind of goes case by case, because some clients, they really enjoy being able to educate their counselor on their community. And that might be something that kind of bonds them, that they have it like, well, okay, you educated me on coping skills and all these different things. Let me educate you a little bit more about my identity and my community. Whereas some people, that can be frustrating, and that can turn and be like, okay, I don't want to have to go through educating on all this stuff. You know, spend time to get to my emotional struggle.
Right.
And kind of goes case by case. And then I know as counselors, you know, we can't know everything.
Right.
You're gonna have instances where, you know, you got to swallow that pride pill sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes as counselors, you kind of get that like, okay, I'm like the expert. And you don't want to ask those questions, but being honest and being genuine helps so much with the connection anyway. So asking questions when you don't know sometimes. But I think I just going back to, I think it's case by case. Some clients, it will turn them off completely. And some clients, it'll be like, okay, a bonding thing for them to be able to educate you about their community.
Yeah. Well, and I think that each client, you're essentially learning that client and their history.
Their world.
And I think the challenge sometimes for therapists is to remember, the client is not. I have to learn. They're the experts, mm-hmm. And then also us doing our due diligence to not have the clients there to educate us, right? Because we're there for them. That's not to say we're not influenced and understand, and we do our due diligence, but I don't know if that makes sense. But
no, yeah, there has to be some type of it's okay. The client is the expert on their life.
Right.
And so then we're talking to them to learn more about their life. We're not necessarily talking to them to learn about the community as a whole. So if I go to therapy and they start asking me, well, what does this mean when Black people do this, Black people do that, when women do, that's not why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
Right. Like you on my time.
Are you paying me for this? Am I
yes. I'm gonna send you my bill.
Right. And so I think there's a little bit of you should, like you said, do your due diligence of learning and researching and learning for yourself. But also, yes, if there is a question, if I use a phrase that you don't understand, don't just keep going. Ask me what that phrase means. And I think that's what it is. Yes, don't take 30 minutes out of my session to learn about the LGBT community, but also don't sit there ignorant if you know that you don't know what I'm talking about, because that could be something that really impacts me.
Absolutely.
So so it's kind of having that balance.
Yeah.
What did I just say?
Also, another aspect is that something I've heard a lot is that in the people of color communities, a lot of times when they go to professionals, they kind of go with that notion of, okay, this is the expert. These are you are the trained person.
Right.
You tell me.
Right.
You tell me, is this normal? What, And so I think it takes a little building that therapy relationship, and then kind of going over your stance and kind of what your orientation is in therapy as well. We kind of go from the point of they're the expert of their life, of their inner world, because, you haven't lived your life.
Right.
And so, but that can be another layer of it, of kind of that, okay, them coming into it thinking that you are the expert. You're going to, as a counselor, you're going to provide them all this expertise of answers. And so that kind of takes more education as we spread awareness about the counseling process, what that looks like in that room.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know the answer to this, but and I don't even know if we talked about this a lot in the first couple episodes, but when it comes to microaggressions, so microaggressions are those small things that might happen to communities, minority communities, that aren't overt racism or overt, aggression. It's like small things that just make you uncomfortable and make you feel like, ooh, why did they say that? Or why did they ask me that? Like when, as a Black woman, if I change my hair and they'd be like, I didn't know you grew your hair. Your hair was that long or something like that after I just had a bob yesterday. It's like small things really? Is that really the question? Or, I'm trying to think of some other examples.
I have one. I remember I was, I'd gone to a conference. I used to do photography. And so I was at this photography conference. I'm dressed semi-professional, not like in a suit, but, clearly office professional, right? And I'm in the elevator for my hotel, and I'm a Latina. So the lady that's in the elevator with me was a Caucasian woman. And she looks at me, she's like, so what time do y'all come by to clean the rooms?
That's a real one.
And I'm like, oh, I don't work here. I'm here for a conference, so felt a little more macro than micro.
That was like a real life.
But she was like really surprised that I wasn't there to clean the room.
Right. So I'm curious, and that might be something we should talk about in the future, just microaggressions in general in therapy, because I've heard some horror stories. But I'm curious if, Justyn, if you can think of any, or even if we can think of any that therapists may not be aware. You can't say this to somebody in the queer community without them having some type of an impact, a negative impact, without having a negative impact on them.
Yeah.
So
I
if you
would
can,
say, even from what I asked yesterday, people would say that they struggle with sometimes a therapist, like in a way, sneaking in religion in the church into their sessions.
Wow.
That's not something that they have brought up, something that they want to work on, something that's relevant to what they're going through right now.
Right.
And so that can be considered a microaggression in the session, which can be damaging to your client and especially your therapeutic relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
What type of connection you're trying to have with this person to help them through X, Y, Z. So that can be an example of a microaggression, just like in the counseling room.
Okay.
You know, one that I've heard also is, I think part of it is also trying to know what terms do we use, being aware and all that. But I've heard when clearly a same-sex couple comes in and they're married and still using the terms, well, your partner, no, this is my husband or this is my wife, still having the comfort of being able to use the proper, you know, terms, or rather the terms that represent their relationship for what it is.
Right. Right. And I would even think, what is it, pronouns? Like that might be a big one. I definitely, you know, have had that experience even as a therapist, and I'll be honest, where I don't want to give, well, basically, people in their life hadn't accepted, you know, that they were transitioning, and so it will be like when they're around, I have to say this, but when I'm with the client, I have to say this, you know, things like that. And so that could be offensive if they're telling you like, this is my pronoun,
right?
They're choosing to say like, no, I'm just going to call you, you know, whatever I'm comfortable with. I'm sure that can be a stressful and a microaggression as well. And I was thinking even the language that we use around like choice of like, right.
Or saying lifestyle, like, no, it's not a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that can have a negative kind of vibe around it too. That can show sometimes of not true acceptance and not being really affirming of that. So that can be a microaggression in itself sometimes.
Right. By saying like, this is your lifestyle.
Right.
This
that you chose.
You chose this lifestyle.
You chose this lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like eating paleo is a lifestyle, right? Like, this is not a lifestyle. This is not a lifestyle.
Hey, it's a choice.
Which is interesting because I feel like that was like obviously before progression, like that was a big thing, right? You say like, well, they just live that lifestyle, or this is the lifestyle, or whatever, and it's kind of like, that's not really how we refer to it. Like this is just me. Like this is so understanding that. We talked a little bit about what therapists can do differently. And Justyn, I just want to know if you have any other suggestions on for therapists that are well, first off, how do you know if a therapist is competent in working with the queer community?
I think one thing is important. I think it starts from when you are looking for a therapist. I think looking to see, do you see yourself around them? So do you see pictures on their website? Are you seeing affirming language on their website? Usually people who are very competent or people who have done work in the past will have something on their website about their work in the community, or a section, or even you'll see like LGBT friendly flag at the bottom of the page. So those little things, like I said, I think for the outside community, maybe they think it's like, oh, not like this little flag, that's not gonna do much. But as someone in the community, you scroll to the website, you're gonna see that rainbow flag at the bottom of the screen, like, oh, you put that on there. Time to put that on there. So I think in the community, looking for those little signs that you can see, okay, this person is really affirming, they care about our community, they're really there for us. That can show you. And then asking those questions. I think when you go to counseling, ask them about what kind of past work have they done with people who are like you. I mean, that's you're paying your hard-earned money,
right?
Counseling. I mean, it's just like when you do anything else of some type of investment, you want to know, okay, have you invested money before? Have you?
Right.
You know, what have you done in the past to show that you are competent and that you have done work in this area? So I think, asking those questions, you got every right to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yes,
definitely. Especially when you're spending money, you ask as many questions as you need to feel comfortable, because the biggest and most important part of therapy is that therapeutic relationship.
Absolutely.
And so if you going in feeling kind of uncomfortable or you know, concerned about what's going to happen, you probably won't get the best experience. Get the most out of it.
Yeah. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I had a friend, a Black woman who was seeking out therapy, and her therapist was going to be a white woman whose name was Becky. And we know the last year, Becky been on Front Street.
No, that is funny.
Been on Front Street the last year.
Right.
You know that ain't.
Now Becky, well, we got
now Becky now.
Right.
You know, I think also to add, you know, because we are aware of the financial investment, like you're investing financially, and I think even I don't want to say more than that because I recognize the financial investment, but you're investing your vulnerability in the process. You're investing, opening up to this person, and really investing the emotional currency of, okay, I am going to go there. Maybe this is the first time ever I'm going to go there. And that in it of itself is of such great value that whoever it is that you are willing to invest and go there with should really be able to do their best to meet you where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I want to move into just giving Justyn the floor as far as like talking about what your practice. Well, let's start there. Just tell us a little bit about your practice, the communities that you like to work with, your ideal client, those type of things.
Well, like I said, I'm at Amy Wine Counseling Center in Cypress, Texas. And so when I first got into private practice, a lot of my mentors were saying, like, you know, you got to figure out what's your ideal client, you know, because you can't help everybody.
Right.
Counselors, we get into it thinking like, oh, I just want to help people. But you get in private practice, it's like, okay, what do I want to specialize in? What are my ideal clients? And one of the mentors, one thing they asked me was like, okay, when you work with certain people or certain populations, when you leave that session, you know, who gives you energy when you are done? Like, you just feel that spark and excitement and just that you go in. And I knew right away that it was my community that I was a part of. And so I knew that was like my first ideal population. And then also, I think being a little bit unique in the mental health field that's so women dominated, I think that I get the opportunity a lot of times that heterosexual men, when they're in couples, maybe it's a wife and a husband, and the husband wants counseling individually. And so I will see a lot of men in that capacity as well in counseling. So that tends to happen a lot. But one thing I enjoy about my practice is that it's a group practice of about 11 people. And I love that, you know, I think I was important when I interviewed for the position, when I looked at going somewhere, you know, how affirming they were. Because, you know, if I don't feel welcome, my brother and sister's not going to feel welcome either. So I love that I feel so welcome as a professional and feel comfortable recommending people from my community to go there because, you know, it may be a adolescent who's on the autism spectrum where that's not my specialty, but I know another counselor there, even though if that person is is a queer person, that she will take care of him, knowing that that's a safe, affirming environment. So I love that and being a part of that group.
Awesome. So what makes you a dope therapist?
Me?
Yes. Yes.
Duh.
Everything about me.
Have you not been here for the last 40 minutes? Have you not heard what I do? Google me.
Google me. But I mean, I'm joking, but kind of serious. I mean, I feel like as therapists, you know, you kind of get to that point where you bring yourself into that room, your experiences, your identity, your passion, combined with all those clinical skills and terms and education that you've got. So that kind of what makes me and everybody else a dope therapist. When you bring yourself, your true authentic self to that room, because we know research shows about that relationship and being genuine and authentic with your clients. So that makes me a dope therapist.
Yes.
I would agree.
Thank you.
And the last question is just, what do you feel like you're doing differently to help the mental health community? I mean, to change the mental health game, to help minority communities, How do you feel like you're trying to make changes and waves in those communities when it comes to mental health?
And then I have one question after that.
I think stepping outside of that therapy room, I think I'm just more of a naturally, I like to collaborate. I love to connect with people. So I think that is kind of stepping outside of that bubble and connecting with organizations who have maybe a bigger platform and maybe have more of a social change type of mission and focus, that you can bring your expertise as a therapist to that organization, to their focus, because they may have different things that they may be doing, social events or educational events, but you can bring that mental health aspect to those events, to that organization, and therefore the community as a whole, because we can only do so much work and see so many people in our office. So taking that step outside your office and get involved in the community, and just being even just an example, especially as a person of color, normalizing, oh, you're a therapist? That takes that step further of normalizing therapy, because obviously you believe in counseling and therapy because you have committed your life and your career to this area.
That's right.
So obviously, okay, this might be something. Maybe this is okay for me to want to do this.
Yeah. And then my last question. So you told us why you're a dope therapist. You told us all the dope things you're doing to change the therapy world. Why do you think therapy is dope?
I think therapy is dope because, it's just a safe space where you get to really take that time to focus on yourself. And I think it's so important because, especially in our culture, I've been in El Salvador 3 times, I think I'm worldwide now.
You're international, baby. Watch out, people.
And so, especially in our culture, we're so go all the time. And so just to even take that hour through in the week to focus on you and reflect and think about the decisions you've made, think about where you're going in life, and taking that time and having that professional in front of you to help guide you through that reflection is so powerful. And I think we see in other communities, they're really taking advantage of that because it's been normalized though. So for them, it's kind of like, okay, I go to lunch, I go play tennis, I go see my therapist. It's part of the routine. I tell everybody about it. It's no big deal. And so, I'm hoping through Melanin Mental Health, we get to that point in our community with people of color, especially the LGBT people of color, of getting connected to therapists that are affirming and then making it normalized to be in therapy, and kind of going from there.
Yes, I like that. You are dope.
Right. You talked about Amy Wan counseling, but you didn't talk very much about Justyn Smith training. Can you tell us about that?
And give us how they can contact you.
Because, I'm in my PhD program, and I would see, I'm co-teaching with different professors and being involved with practicum students of seeing how, in counseling programs, they give us like the foundation to kind of go out there. But there's so much more that needs to be learned and educated and trained to become an advanced skilled clinician to better serve the community. And so I kind of saw that gap of, okay, people are kind of getting into the field and not having this education and those skills. And so I kind of took my passion of my ideal client, my population, and stepping outside of the office of what else can I do to help the community. And so that's kind of where it was birthed, of Justyn training to specialize in providing that type of education for mental health professionals. And so my first training actually will be in the community is at Intracare North Hospital.
Awesome.
So that would be me training. But then also, I think as clinicians, start looking for those trainings that are around you and go to, whether it's virtual, online, whether it's a webinar, whether it's textbooks. If you get on Amazon and look up LGBT counseling, you can find workbooks, you can find textbooks that can help you become more competent and increase your knowledge about areas. It's all around us. Thank God for technology and Google. You can find a webinar, you can find a workshop that can help you to increase your knowledge. That way, when that client brings up that term, you're like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, you must have fun. Okay, what happened?
That's right.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you being on the show, Justyn. Thank you.
Real quick, Justyn, can you give them the websites and your social media handles of how they can get in touch with you?
All social media is Justyn Smith Training on Instagram, Facebook. Twitter is Justyn Training. I only like Twitter, but you know.
Short and everything.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And my website is justynsmithtraining.com to learn more about my training. And then also my counseling is on there as well.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justyn.
Yes. If you want to know more about melanin and mental health, go to Facebook and Instagram at Melanin and Mental Health. Go to melaninandmentalhealth.com, of course. And then on Twitter, because, you know, they hate, it's Melanin Health.
You hating on our titles, man.
We got too many letters. We got too much to say.
You need to accept all of me. That's the problem.
Yes. I am a lot.
Make sure y'all join the Facebook group, Between Sessions Podcast, where we post these, as well as we're going to start having some conversations around this. And also, even before the sessions, we want to start knowing, talking to you guys about what you think about the topics. Do you have any questions that you think we should be asking? So make sure you join Between Sessions Podcast. And it's a great place to connect with other mental health professionals. If you are just someone who's not so sure about if therapy is for you, come in there and chat up some therapists and just see what they're talking about and how they feel about these different topics. That's another way to figure out if they're culturally competent, or if they are somebody that you would be interested in seeing. Go ahead.
I know such and such is in Katy. I know such and such is in Southwest. You can start to build that the all-star network of people that you know.
Right. And if you are a mental health professional, join Melanin and Mental Health Professionals on Facebook as well. That's where we kind of go. We share resources. We get so many people looking for therapists. And so if we can't find them on the directory, we go to the group to see if we can find them there. Mm-hmm. So check out that group. I think that's it. Sign up for the directory if you're a mental health professional. Mm-hmm. Lisa, tell them about the benefits of the directory.
Yes, if your membership with Melanin and Mental Health, in addition to being on our website, you get to be on here, right? Like, come on here. We want you to tell everybody what you're doing, just like Justyn did. And just that you were our first guest.
Yes.
Oh, snap!
You were our first guest, and all you got. You were our first guest, and all you got was that T-shirt.
First guest.
Yeah. So membership includes, getting, you're going to have priority as far as being on the podcast. We're going to let people know through our social media platforms where you're at. What am I forgetting here, Ebony? Because
writing for the blog, being on the podcast, we're going to share you via our social media. Discount tickets to events that we have. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. We have so many things that we've been trying to work on as far as getting the perks, but really just being able to be found by people that are looking for you.
Yes.
And we're talking about, webinars, CEUs, all that kind of stuff, just to make it a full membership. Yes. Like, you really get a lot from being a part of Melanin and Mental Health. And so join now. It's 3 months free.
Yes.
We are completely revamping the website, and so we're so excited about that.
Cannot wait.
Yes. We're gonna have the same feel, but it's gonna be so much more like user-friendly and so much more
access to the resources, connecting you with the communities, because that's why we're here. We're here to inform our communities about what therapy is about. Then we're going to connect them with you, and this is for our, all of you out there that are just contemplating therapy. We just want to bridge that gap between our communities and the mental health field. Wow, we changed the face of therapy. Both sides of the couch.
Again, Dallas coming up next month. In Houston, we're having a live podcast, not of Between Sessions though.
No, what is it of, Ebony? Because you don't ever like to tell the people all of the amazing things you do, including your amazing podcast.
In the name of Valentine's Day month.
Relationships.
So that's what we're going to be talking about on this podcast. And along with that, for our Houston event, we're going to do a live podcast of Room for Relations.
Ooh, which is what?
Relationship podcast.
What do y'all discuss?
Where we discuss everything from the first date to the last orgasm. So.
Yes, God.
Look out for
that. Tell me more.
That's it, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Mwah, 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 mwah.
Bye.